pumpkin spice everything season! It's also the season to get totally ripped off on everything pumpkin flavored. But don't worry, I'm here to save the day and your wallet, and frankly, I think the whole season of fall, if you ask me, by showing you how to make your own pumpkin puree. So there's two main reasons why I'm doing this video for you guys. Number one being, whenever we are in peak pumpkin spice season, it seems that our benevolent grocery overlords seem to jack up the price on pumpkin puree and everything else pumpkin flavored, and quite frankly, it drives me a little bit nuts. Secondly, whenever I need pumpkin puree for a recipe and I go to my store, it's usually sold out, so I have to run around to like 5 different grocery stores just to get one flippin' can of pumpkin puree, and I am pretty done with that. Can you believe that this can of pumpkin puree cost me $7? So me being the mad kitchen scientist that I think I am, I researched, I meticulously planned, and I tested out a few different ways to make pumpkin puree, and I came to a shocking discovery. It's really easy to make, and you don't have to use a pumpkin to make pumpkin puree. That's right, I said it. You don't have to use a pumpkin to make pumpkin puree. You can use any of these. I have so many upcoming pumpkin flavored recipes hitting the channel this fall. You are not gonna wanna miss it, and you're gonna wanna use your own homemade pumpkin puree to make those recipes I'm gonna show you later on. So make sure you subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future recipe videos, and let's get right into making this pumpkin puree! You may not know this, but some varieties of canned pumpkin puree are actually just a blend of several different kinds of squashes and winter pumpkins. I'm gonna use a combination of all of these to make my pumpkin puree, but you can just choose to use one or two, or do what I'm doing. So we're gonna start with our kabocha squash if you choose to use it. So you're gonna need a very sharp knife, a large sharp knife, and you're gonna wanna start by first carefully cutting off the top of the kabocha squash. So you might have to go around a couple times and make a few large cuts, and it requires a little bit of elbow grease and patience, but you'll get there. Once you've cut off the top, you want to place the kabocha squash flat side down on your cutting board, and you're gonna want to cut it straight in half. Next, you're gonna wanna grab yourself a spoon, and you're gonna scrape out all of that flesh and the guts and all those seeds that are inside. Now don't throw them out, because I'm gonna show you how to use those in an upcoming recipe video. Now I'm only gonna use half my kabocha squash, so I'm just gonna cut that into another half. So I'm gonna use 2/4 basically of my kabocha squash. Then we're just gonna place that flat side down onto a parchment lined baking tray. Next up, I'm tackling my butternut squash. So I'm just gonna take the long part of the butternut squash, and I'm just going to again cut off the top of it, and then we're going to again cut it into quarters. And now I'm going to use all 4 quarters, and we're just going to simply once again place them face down on your sheet next to your kabocha squash. You're going to repeat the following steps with your sugar pumpkin if you're using one, just like you did with the kabocha squash and the butternut squash. When it comes time to do the sweet potato, if you choose to use it and you want to be a little bit experimental, just make sure you have scrubbed it really well, patted it dry with a towel, and then since I'm just using half of it, I just cut it in half lengthwise, and then I cut it into another half again, so I have 2 little halves. And then we're just gonna place that face down on your baking tray next to all your other pumpkin-y goodness. Now you may have to do this on 2 trays, and that is a-okay. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and then we're gonna bake all of this together for roughly an hour. Now you can always check it at around the 45-minute mark, but basically what you want to look for is that when you stick a sharp knife into each piece that you're cooking, you want the knife to glide in and out really smoothly with no resistance. That's how you know when it is done. It's gonna be nice and soft, and it's gonna be super kind of melty to the touch. Now for the fun part, you guys. Hip hip puree! Get it? Before we begin, make sure that the squash has cooled enough to be able to handle safely without burning your fingers, and grab yourself a food processor. If you don't have a food processor, that is a-okay. You can use a blender, or if you don't have that, you can use a potato masher or a fork. Now I'm starting off with the butternut squash pieces. So you can choose to either peel off the skins if they seem to be peeling off easily, or if they're not and they're coming off in just little tiny bits, which is just frustrating as heck to peel off, you can just choose to scoop out the flesh with a spoon, which is what I ended up doing. Then just pop the pieces into your food processor. And we are basically just gonna repeat that with all the remaining varieties of squash slash pumpkin that we cooked. The pie pumpkin skins always seem to like peel off so nicely, which is awesome. And then you can just chop them up into slices or just pull them apart, pop it in the food processor. The kabocha squash skins always are a little bit thicker than most, so you might have a hard time peeling off the skins like I did, so you can just scoop it out with the spoon as before. When it comes to the sweet potato, usually the skins just slide right off super easily if they're cool enough, and that just makes it so much easier. You can just pull apart the pieces and pop them right into the food processor. Now, depending on how big your food processor is, you may have to do this in 2 batches, but I'm gonna be ambitious and try to do all of this in 1 batch. Pray for me. But what you should do is make sure that you press it down against the blades as much as you can, just so that your food processor has the easiest time possible trying to blend this. Okay, it has been processed. It is so smooth looking. I did have to stop and push things down a bit and scrape the sides as I went. Only had to stop about twice, which is no big deal. You might have to do the same depending on how big your batch is. I thought it would be interesting to see the difference in taste between store-bought and my homemade one. So let's just give it a go. I'm really curious. Now, I'm not bashing store-bought. I'm not saying it's like gross or anything, but I have a feeling I might like this one better. Okay. Oh, I was not expecting to have such a visceral reaction to that. I would not recommend eating canned pumpkin puree by the spoonful. It is actually not that good. It kind of tastes, I don't know, a bit bland and kind of acrid. I don't know how to describe it, but it just does not taste very sweet at all. It's just kind of watery and I don't know. You gotta mix this with something sweet in order for it to taste good, obviously. Now this stuff, oh my god, oh my gosh. That's delicious. I could actually just like enjoy this by the spoonful. It's so sweet, you guys. It's so thick and creamy. It's not watery at all. I mean, if this stuff tastes that good just by the spoonful on its own, imagine how good this is gonna be in pumpkin pies, in any kind of breads or baked goods or pastries or cheesecakes or smoothies. You can use this in everything you want. It's just so flippin' good. Heck, you could even use it in savory dishes to give it a really nice sweet undertone, like soups and stews and curries. Oh my gosh. This is just gonna be so good. I am so excited to use this all throughout the pumpkin season. Ah! Yes! It's gonna be so good. Calm down, Janelle. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm just going to now scoop this into some jars that I have, and I'm gonna probably keep one of these in the fridge for recipes that I'm gonna make this week, and the rest I'm going to store in my freezer, which you can totally do. You can freeze pumpkin puree and it will stay good for months. And it thaws out nicely, and what you may notice is that if there is any liquid separation, that is normal after you freeze something and then thaw it out. You just got to give it a stir to reincorporate the liquid back into the solids, and it will be totally good to go. Would I recommend you make this? Absolutely, 100%. You should totally give this a go if you've never tried making your own pumpkin puree. It's just so flippin' easy, and it's just great because you don't have to worry about not having the right kind of squash to do it. You can use any kind of squash you can get your hands on. Now you know how to make your own pumpkin puree. I saved fall, you're welcome. Make sure you give this video a like and subscribe below, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!